So when we think about what's at stake in this election, whoa, it's packed with some stuff. It's packed with some fundamental stuff. I say rather articulately.
Man, it has really been a rough week for Kamala Harris, and that is saying a lot because I thought last week was rough for Kamala Harris, but we're watching right now what I predicted would be called the October collapse. And that is essentially the point in the election where the honeymoon, remember everyone talked about the honeymoon in July and August, that effectively wore off by about September. But now full-scale reality is starting to set in. Donald Trump historically is a strong closer in elections, but you know who always manages to screw it up? Just look back to 2020 is none other than Kamala Harris. And you saw that all of this week between the bad answers she gave in interviews when she went on The View and said that she would do nothingly different from Joe Biden. She has Barack Obama out there furiously trying to campaign for her. And this Friday, she put the ultimate punctuation mark on what has been a terrible week by giving probably one of the most inarticulate speeches of all time. It kind of rivals Joe Biden. A lot of people were speculating that maybe she's drunk, or they were making the joke at least. I'm not here to speculate on her blood alcohol content, but I am here to show you the clip. But first, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Your subscriptions go a long way in this election year in ensuring we can keep bringing you videos like this. And that said, before we get into tonight's speech, I would be remiss if I did not point out exactly what happened last Friday. Okay, I don't know what it is with Kamala and Friday nights in October. I guess she runs out of gas. She's tired from the week. But let's remind ourselves that last Friday, she did a very similar thing when it appears that her teleprompter went down or something, but she just started rambling and repeating herself during that speech as well.
Remember his number? 32. Today we got 32 days until the election. So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead.
32 days. Repeats herself a million times because she does not have a speech to read. So again, I reiterate, that is what happened exactly 7 days before this. I don't know if there's a pattern there. I don't know why. Again, people will make the jokes. People will speculate. It is what it is. But I am here to show you 1 week later, this is what happened at her speech tonight. A very similar situation. Take a listen.
So when we think about what's at stake in this election, whoa, it's packed with some stuff. It's packed with some fundamental stuff. I say rather articulately.
So I don't know what was going on there. Did the teleprompter go down? Was she not using one? I frankly have absolutely no idea, but that is a truly insightful statement. If we know anything about this election, it is packed with some stuff, okay? Now, if you thought this is just a weird sentence or I'm taking one soundbite and taking it way too seriously, that is not true because there is much more from the speech that she gave at this country over party event. And this is essentially where she's going to try to make the case that because war criminals like Liz and Dick Cheney support her, that means as a Republican, you are obligated to do so as well. But take a listen to even more of this speech. Yeah, pack with some stuff. Certainly, for sure. All right, check it out.
As though it is a sign of weakness to have empathy. In the Senate, well, it was late into the night, and in the Senate, you walk onto the Senate floor, and there are these big wooden ornate doors, and those ornate doors opened. And John McCain came out. He's going after me. And I'm going back after him. I'm going back after him. And that was it. And this is what the public saw. And then I step onto the floor of the well of the Senate later that day. We had votes. And I passed by John McCain. And he looks at me and he says, "Kid, come over here. You're going to make a great senator." True story. True story. True story.
Okay. Yeah, see, here's the problem with Kamala Harris, and especially the issue that I think the people running her campaign have, and the reason why they're scrambling around in circles, not exactly sure what to do, is yes, on one hand, it is undeniably true that the hiding her in the basement strategy that they've done for the first couple months of her very short campaign has its flaws, right? It has holes in it, which is when you refuse to take questions, when you refuse to do interviews or really put yourself out there to the people, that's not a good look for a candidate supposedly running on saving democracy and heck in any election system. But at the same time, on the flip side, the issue is, as you saw this week, they had her doing a bunch of interviews all of a sudden out of nowhere. They had her, going on The View and going on these random podcasts and all that stuff. Is when she does this, every time she opens her mouth, she declines in popularity as well. So it really is a double-edged sword, because if you hide her away in the basement, which worked in 2020 for COVID, but doesn't work so much now, it's a bad look because you're hiding your candidate in the basement. But at the same time, when you put them out on the stage to speak, every time she opens her mouth, she causes problems for herself. And I think that is precisely why her campaign is such in a panic mode right now, because they see Donald Trump really finishing strong, catching up to those polls he was down in the month of October, which people should have expected was going to happen. Again, Donald Trump is a strong historical closer in any election cycle. But at the same time, when you're damned if you do and damned if you don't on the front of interviews, you really put yourself in a bad situation.
Let's just be honest. The Harris campaign is going to do what it believes it needs to do in order to win the race. And that means going on Stephen Colbert's show. That means going on The View on Tuesday. That means going on shows where she's going to be welcomed, where she's not going to be interrogated. And that's just the reality of campaigning, in the same way that Donald Trump usually mostly goes on right-wing shows, like on his friends, Fox News shows. So that's the reality here. But I do think it's notable that Harris is going out and doing a lot of TV this week. It is a sudden change in her strategy, and it aligns with the early voting schedule. She is now out there talking about registering to vote, getting your ballot early, and having a plan to vote. And that's the reason why she's doing all these TV appearances.
Yeah, well, to follow up on what that knucklehead Brian Stelter said, although he was generally kind of making a true point here, it's inevitable. I think it's undeniable at this point that the reason the Kamala campaign drastically changed up their process, and a candidate who never did interviews this week all of a sudden is doing a ton of interviews, is because they must have looked at something. I don't know if it's internal polls or early voting data or mail-in ballot returns, whatever it is. They have something on their end that is saying, okay, we need to start freaking out, right? Something about what we are doing is currently not working, because keep in mind, I will reiterate, every time you put Kamala Harris out there to do this stuff unscripted, you are taking a serious political risk. It is a gamble, because as you can see, she has a tendency to screw it up when she's put out there. So if they really thought that they could easily win this election by keeping her in the basement until November 5th, they would do it. Okay, do not kid yourself. They would absolutely do that. But clearly, this is a sign of desperation, because they're seeing something internally that is saying, okay, at this point, it's going to be worth the gamble, because if we just continue doing what we're currently doing, we're probably going to lose. So we need to switch it up and just see what happens, throw a Hail Mary and see if it works. Okay, and on the flip side, that should make you, I would say, optimistic. I won't say confident. I certainly won't say arrogant. It's a very close election, and that's why I have stressed the need to avoid complacency for Trump supporters. But that should be a sign of optimism that says, hey, I mean, maybe all of the mainstream media astroturfing and all the joy and fake enthusiasm, maybe it was not working out so well as they claimed. And now The October surprise is the collapse of Kamala Harris. Just saying. With that said, though, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of Kamala's speech tonight, if you want to call it that? Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.